Good Saturday morning now. This is the end of chapter 6 in Luke's Gospel. This is really powerful stuff here. You're all aware of it. I mean, this is good common. You've heard this thing many, many, many times. So maybe this is his virtue theory. I mean, Aristotle could have written this thing, or Plato. No? This is virtue theory. See? But what the model here is not of the good Athenian, but Christ himself, the Son of God. See? So it transcends the human wisdom by completing it in the God-man in Christ, and therefore the cross. That's a Greek could never understand Good Friday. But a Christian starts with Good Friday and reads the rest in light of it. Goes back to the beginning and reads it in the light of the death and resurrection of Christ. See? That's what we bring to the table, a radical, radical view of what is expected of us life, to fulfill those things wanting in the suffering of Christ for the redemption of the world. We are called to redeem, not just be just and fair. Watch what he says. Jesus said to his disciples, a good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit. There's your virtue theory. Every tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from brambles. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good. But an evil person out of the store of evil produces evil. Vice, you see. For from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. Aristotle could have said that 500 years before. It means out of virtue. It's all he's describing is virtue. And he's right. Okay? See, the fullness of the heart is either going to be virtuous or vicious. And that will lead to your behavior. And your behavior will reinforce and reflect the condition of the heart. You see? This is very important. By God it is. See, why do you call me Lord, Lord? Now, it's a different text, okay? But not do what I command. I'll show you what someone is like who comes to me and listens to my words and acts on them. And once again, virtue theory kicks in. That one is like a man building a house who dug deeply and laid the foundation on rock. That's virtue. Strength, you see. When the flood came, the rivers burst against that house, but could not shake it because it had been built well, or well built. See, it's on virtue. A virtuous person is prepared by the virtues of the heart, patience, justice, moderation, all the virtues, generosity, let alone faith, hope, and trust. It could sustain even the most turbulent of events in their life. They are not defeated by the uncertainties of life and its violence because their heart is firm. It's firmly rooted in the gospel. Watch what he says now. But the one who listens and does not act, does not cultivate, you see, the virtue. It's like a person who built a house on the ground without a foundation. When the river burst against it, it collapsed at once and was completely destroyed. And I'd say to build a culture on politics alone, not on wisdom. The Greeks said it had to be built on wisdom. I would say the modern state's built on power and law. A sitting duck to collapse when the going gets rough. I think of the houses along in Chatham that sit on the bay. And one year the hurricane came and it hit, and those houses just tumbled into the water. They were built on sand. It's the image I have in Chatham. What's it called? Chatham Bay. It's not the right word for it. I'm sloppy tonight. I'm sorry. And I think about the societies we live in. When you have a society of self-advantage, self-pursuit, and not a commitment to a profound, just society, you're playing a dangerous game. I think that what has preserved us as Americans is that we have arguably the greatest constitution that it was ever been created, and it has been stable and stabilizing. And we have endured actually the Civil War, and we have endured the Great Depression in our society, especially the Great Depression in the early 20th century. Would have destroyed most any other state, and it didn't. And even in the 60s, with all the tumult of the 60s, our elections took place in a very ordinary way, an orderly way. We have never collapsed, even though we had rioting in the streets, fire on neighborhoods on fire. The prevalence of constitutional law prevailed. The structure of our society prevailed. That's the truth. That's the simple truth. I'm so grateful for it. I think the American society, frankly, because of its Constitution, and I think it's profoundly, deeply rooted Judeo-Christian values, sort of a Judeo-Christian humanism, the rights of persons, articulated, protected by the Constitution and the governments that have emerged out of the Constitution and in service of the Constitution have sustained it. If there is any risk at all, is the risk of paganizing that foundation, in which it then runs the risk of disintegrating the foundation by coming up with or evolving into a crude humanism, one not capable of sustaining the society, something far more whimsical than stable. I don't know. I'm too old to worry about it, but I do think of the strength of our Constitution, the strength of our nation. I'm glad I'm an American, put it that way. You want to feel that, go to Europe, go to any other country, go visit it. You'll be grateful you're an American. You'll be grateful you're an American, because you'll feel the protection of the state, the American state, that nobody can mess with you. It's the truth. When I was in Italy with my family, even Germany, I was glad I was an American. I knew I was an American. I was glad I was an American, even though I was with my extended family there, all my cousins and aunts and uncles and all. I'm an American. It was clearly I was an American, and I was proud to be an American, and grateful, not proud, grateful to be an American, because I felt the security and protection of the American Constitution. I was an American, and in that sense, untouchable. See? As long as I kept my nose clean, I was untouchable. I was an American citizen. I don't know why I chose to think about this morning as I'm reading the text, but I know what the foundation is like, the difference between a rock and sand. Don't build your house on sand. The rivers come, the winds come, the storms come, the house collapses. And you build it on rock. You build it on a stable foundation that goes to the very core, the very basis of your values, your laws, and your expectations in life, and it will sustain you. I told you that already now a couple of times, but I told you this before. When I think of those beautiful homes in Chatham that went rolling down into the ocean because they were built on sand, those houses were worth millions of dollars, not thousands, millions. Imagine looking out at Cape Cod Bay or Chatham. Holy God, how beautiful can anything be? And those homes were gorgeous. They tumbled into the water. If they could have been shacks. So all that wealth didn't amount to anything. The way I understand it, when they rebuilt them with solid foundations, pillars. Okay? It's a good analogy, because money doesn't buy that stability. It has to be, in the Greek world, was reason, profound wisdom. In Judeo-Christian is a profound humanism rooted in the gospel and in Christ. And I believe that.